Hello and welcome to the footballing podcast To The Point. We have been away for quite a while, but we have returned with a slightly new format. Same people, so I am Sam.
And I am Matt.
And we are going to be bringing you podcasts about the footballing world and the sort of the really important topics within that world. So, just from me, before we begin, just a little bit about why we've been away for such a while. I think both of us, Matt, I think you'd agree, have had some significant life changes. And that meant that we had to sort of take a backseat from doing this podcast for a while. And there hasn't been a really good moment to actually bring it back until now. It seems like a bit of a weird time to actually be bringing back a podcast with everything that's going on in the world at the moment. But, this is something that we really enjoyed doing before. And it's something that we really always wanted to bring back. Matt, you've actually had a really significant change in your life in the last year.
Yep, I'm now a dad. My little girl's 1 year old, and I also bought a house as well. So all in the same year. So it was a lot going on, and recording a podcast kind of took a back seat. But with everything that you said that is going on, I got laid off my current job until this is over. So it seemed like the perfect opportunity to try and work on bringing the podcast back, and we're here. And like you said, slightly different format. We're not going to be doing our weekly roundup of results anymore. They're just too much time and effort. And we're just going to be focusing on maybe one, maybe two topics a week that we just want to talk around and dive into a bit more, see whether we can enlighten you a little bit more and get some feedback from you guys on your reactions to these topics.
So this week, to begin off our new line of podcasts, we are going to be talking about the potential takeover of Newcastle United. So this has really rocked the footballing world in the last few days. It's divided opinion. Newcastle fans are obviously really excited at the prospect of being taken over by one of the richest families in the world, but obviously with that comes side effects, consequences, and we're just going to sort of go through and unpick the package, as it were. So I just want to begin this just by sort of talking about Mike Ashley, who is the current owner of Newcastle United. So he's been in charge, looking after the club for the last 13 years.
Term used very loosely.
Yes. I mean, nothing's changed. I'm still trying to be as diplomatic as possible. But so just to unpick this, Mike Ashley, if anyone who doesn't know who Mike Ashley is, he is a very wealthy businessman in the UK. He owns a chain of sports shops called Sports Direct. Is there any sort of similar sort of shop in Canada, Matt?
We have Cleve's Source for Sports, and we have Sports Check, but I wouldn't say they were like Sports Direct as such. They're probably more like, do you remember JJB?
Oh, yeah.
They're a bit like that. They're a bit more upmarket than bloody Sports Direct. Bargain basement, the absolute dollar store of sportswear.
So Mike Ashley took over 13 years ago, promising Newcastle fans the world. And I don't think you'd find many Newcastle fans that would disagree with the fact that they are extremely annoyed, disappointed, furious about the way Mike Ashley has actually run the club in the last 13 years. So just to give you an overview of Newcastle in the last 13 years, they've had 2 relegations. At one point, they were in the Champions League and went right down to the Championship level. That's the second division in England. awful treatment of club legends and players. I mean, I don't know if you remember the Gutierrez incident, Matt.
Yeah, that was disgusting. That
Yeah,
was.
so if anyone doesn't know about that, Gutierrez was a player at Newcastle United. Unfortunately, he got cancer. Fortunately, he recovered from that, but was told that he was going to have his contract sort of terminated anyway. You know,
By text.
by text,
By text.
disgusting behaviour. You know, I mean, that's bottom of the barrel sort of human behaviour there.
That's not even human hate behaviour, man. Like, I wouldn't wish that on a feral dog.
Yeah, just despicable. So, just moving along the timeline a little bit, you've then got the renaming, he did want to rename the whole stadium the Sports Direct Arena. Fans booted off that. I think it's now Sports Direct at St James Park. I mean, feel free to correct me on that. Anyone out there? He also he's just really run that club into the ground. At one point, Michael Owen was their biggest transfer, and that was in 2009 when they bought him. And up until 2019, he was still their top transfer in terms of value. More recently, with the whole coronavirus incident, he decided that he was going to furlough all the staff at Newcastle, and also he actually tried to get his employees of Sports Direct to still go to work, even though this whole coronavirus were in lockdown. He was still forcing his staff to.
That's because they were essential, wasn't it? Everyone needed their Lonsdale.
Can't be going without some Diodora shorts. Thankfully, the government actually shut him down on that one. And it's just these things that have made him become such a hated figure within not just football, but I think the world as well. Like the whole sort of the UK have seen this guy, and just the way he treats people, the way he treats his businesses, and it's just not on. It's just not on.
It's not. And Newcastle was such a big club before he took over. Like, they always had aspirations. They were always the team that were on the brink of either like the Europa League, Champions League. Under Kevin Keegan, there was even a season where they even challenged for the title, and then he comes in and turns them into just relegation fodder.
Absolutely, no, hardly any investment in the first team, and I think the fans have got to the point where it's just untenable. And this news for them is, I mean, if you're a Newcastle fan and you are hearing that Mike Ashley is going to be leaving the club and you're going to be getting all this investment, you're going to get excited. From a Newcastle fan perspective, without knowing the whole picture, you are going to get excited at the fact that you are going to become the richest club in the world.
Agreeable, but that's why we're doing this podcast, because there's information there that people need to know, because from what I've read, Mike Ashley might actually be the lesser of two evils, which is a horrible thing to say because Mike Ashley, as we know, is a tool. But this investment package that's been put up together and the people involved, it's sketchy.
Well, let's dive right into that. So, Newcastle Takeover, it's being sort of headed up by a lady called Amanda Stavley. So what do we know about her, Matt?
So Amanda Stavley is, she owns the company PCP Capital Partners, which is run out of London. And Amanda Stavley's worth is about $144 million. She's definitely the least valued of the three partners that are going in on this. And her money will get her a 10% investment in this club. And what people should know is that she's got a record with dealing with Middle Eastern investments. She was credited with Sheikh Mansour's takeover at Manchester City. She was pivotal in that going ahead. She was part of the Chinese consortium that tried to buy Liverpool from the Fenway Sports Group. And that fell through in a while back. I can't remember the exact year. She also tried to buy Newcastle in the 2017-18 season, but failed. And I imagine because I think she went at that by herself, and I don't think she could work up the capital to actually meet the price tag at that time. And if you read anything about her, she is a trusted intermediary for Middle Eastern investments, which is what I said. Her husband is Iranian, I think, and the way this whole deal came about is she attended a party on the Prince Crown of Saudi Arabia's yacht. And this is how this whole thing apparently started. But she's definitely she's going to be the controlling partner of this investment, despite having only 10% of the investment. But because she's based in England, she's going to be like the managing partner of this. But she, there's a lot of issues dealing with Middle Eastern investments, and we'll go into it when we get onto the Crown Prince part. But there's so many human rights issues in the Middle East, and trying to bring these people into the English game. I think it brings up a moral issue around the sport.
I mean, you have to be so careful when bringing influences into the Premier League, and where that money's coming from, and what dealings have made that money a realistic proposition for a club. Where is that money coming from? Like, what means has the money come from? And if there's anything at all that seems like it shouldn't be, it's probably because it's not reliable, trustable, and that's the issue, and that's why there's so many of these checks that happen that are meant to happen anyway. But as we've spoken about privately before, money talks, and it's a sad fact of our world. But when a large amount of money is thrown at an entity, it can make moves. But with Amanda Staveley as well, I think people will be wondering sort of what kind of tenure is Amanda Staveley going to bring to Newcastle United? Is it going to be the model that Manchester City went down, where they just pumped millions and millions and millions into the infrastructure of the club, signings, bringing in the best possible players, the best possible coaches? Or is it going to be
They won't be able to anymore, though. Because remember, Manchester City were taken over before UEFA put in their financial fair play system. Which kind of stifled just how much investment owners could put in of their own money. Because before that came in, they were just spending money as and when they wanted. However, this takeover will be under those restrictions. So it'll be interesting to see how it works out, because I literally don't think they can just go out and buy like 10 £80 million rated players. I just don't think they can. I don't think FFP will allow them to.
No, and I think, on Instagram and Twitter and all the social medias, you're seeing Newcastle fans getting really carried away, like sort of photoshopping Mbappe into a Newcastle shirt. And I'm just like, that's not going to happen, is it? It's just clearly not going to happen. I mean, it's good for a laugh, but it's just that is so not going to happen. It's so West. It's unbelievable. But let's get a little bit more into the other parties that are going to play a big part in this. So we've got David and Simon Rubin, who are it's a 10% investment, isn't it? So what are they bringing? Who are they, and what are they bringing to the investment?
So David and Simon Rubin, yes, 10% investment. You're correct. Worth significantly much more than Amanda Staveley. Their joint holdings are worth about $15.2 billion. And they're in property, they deal in art. I believe that at some point they were involved in like metalworks and such. But again, these two are sketchy. Okay, you can just go, if you just go online and start doing some reading on them, it doesn't take you long to find some stories that you really don't want associated with your club. For instance, there's an art scandal, and I believe it was reported last year in the papers, and it was for a company called Gazzini Properties Limited, and it's been reported that these two brothers, the Reuben brothers, own this Gazzini Properties Limited, and it's basically they bought some artwork that apparently was already sold, and they're taking it to legal basis. They're trying to get 100% ownership of it, but I'm pretty sure there was already 50% rights on it from two other parties before they even took it. It's a scandal, essentially, and it's like smoke and mirrors. They've tried to do it through holding companies instead of them being directly involved in it, and it all just a bit, not what you want to be involved with a football club. And they're citizens of the UK. They were born in Mumbai, but they're citizens of the UK, and they do a lot of business in both the UK and the United States. However, they avoid paying large chunks of their taxes in the UK because they do a lot of their investing through offshore holdings and tax havens.
Okay.
So therefore, like I said, they're worth 15.2 billion, and they bring in a silly amount of money each year, but they hardly pay any taxes on it into the UK because of tax havens and offshore accounts, which is, again, it's just, you don't want that. It's shady behaviour.
Absolutely.
And they're regular donators to the Conservative Party, so that kind of tells you where their political leanings are as well. Newcastle, which is what I believe to be it's a very working class club up there in the northwest, and I don't feel like these people have football at the heart of in their heart. I also don't believe they'll have Newcastle in their heart as well, like just the area as such. I don't feel like they're going to be good for Newcastle and football.
Yeah, it does sort of ring a little bit of, just putting in the money so that they can get a hell of a lot more out of it. They're going to be the very business-minded part of the ownership. They're going to be looking for that investment back, and more and more and more. They're not going to be making decisions based on football, which is, is never good for a football club. Obviously, you want the business to grow, and you do need those business-minded people behind it. That makes sense, but you've got to have that correct balance. And because there's more than one sort of overriding ownership here, there's not just one person involved, there's not two people, there's three different parties here. Things could get very messy if everything doesn't go to plan. But more importantly, you've got another major party that's sort of the very background investor in this. They are going to be laying low, and probably with good reason. So you've got the sort of Saudi family, as it were, and their investment fund, their public investment fund. So who is sort of in charge of that? What's the deal with it?
So yeah, like you said, it's the on paper it says the Saudi Public Investment Fund is the other party with an 80% investment in this takeover. However, it's essentially Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who is going to be the other partner in this through that fund, and this is the most worrying part of this whole takeover. It's just everywhere you look, it can't end well, and I believe that if the Premier League stick to their vetting process, that this takeover shouldn't even be allowed to happen because of the information that I've read upon, and like I've got in front of me right here as we're talking. So let's start off with how much they're worth. The Saudi royal family, so he's got this money to draw on, is worth $1.4 trillion. $1.4 trillion. Let that sink in, man.
That's an insane amount of money. Like it's
It is
just
an insane amount of money. Like it eclipses the Manchester City owners like 4 times over.
yeah. I mean, just to let's just put that into perspective as well. So in the Premier League, you have Roman Abramovich, who's worth roughly 10 billion. You've got Sheikh Mansour at Man City, 23 billion. And then you've got these guys who their investment fund is going to be pouring. Well, their investment fund, not just the Saudi family, but the investment fund is worth 260 billion. That is an insane gap in the power that they're going to have in the league. Like the rich list, that is an insane gap. Like they, but like you were saying before,
Your figures are in pounds. Are your figures in pounds?
Yes, my figures are in pounds.
Okay, yeah, mine were in dollars. Sadly, because I'm in Canada, so I get USD come up on my Google searches.
Yes. Well, I mean, I think the figure that I've got here for the Saudi public fund is the money that they actually have as a fund. It's not overall.
Yeah.
So the figure that you've got is probably them overall, whereas the figure I've got here is as a fund.
Yeah. Yes, and this is the point. The royal family, that they can take that 1.4 trillion that I said that they have as a family, and they can put endless amount of that into the fund.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say here. It's the fund. The fund is there, but essentially the royal family are going to own the stake in the team, and they can pour their own wealth into the fund and then fund into the club.
It's, again, it comes back to that. If you're a Newcastle fan right now and you hear just that portion of what we're talking about, you are going to get excited because that changes everything. That changes not just everything for Newcastle United, but that changes everything in the Premier League. Hey, that changes everything in football. Like, they will become the richest football club in the world. Like that. It's
scary.
It's a scary thought. It's a very scary thought.
But that's just the money side. There's nothing overly shocking talking about the money there, like nothing. But then you get into the history of Prince Mohammed Salman, or as he likes to be known, MBS. So he reportedly has his own assassination squad called the Tiger Squad.
Really?
He does.
Does he know Joe Exotic?
I think he heads it up. That's why it's called the Tiger King. Oh, no, that's a different podcast, I think. Oh dear. Anyway, so based on he's got his own assassination squad. So that leads straight into the story that everyone probably heard of, was the assassination of Jamal. And forgive me for saying this wrong. Khashoggi,
yeah.
Khashoggi, yep. Who was at the Saudi consulate in Turkey, I believe, when he turned up dead, essentially, and MBS denied having any take in it, any part of it. But the CIA concluded when they did the investigation that MBS, in fact, did order the hit. Right. And Jamal was a journalist who was very critical of the regime that MBS had put in place. And that's one thing that he does not take very lightly to. He hates being criticized. He hates any criticism of his authority, to his power. He just doesn't like it. And he has a hit squad that apparently he uses to take people out. Reportedly. I'm not saying this as a matter of fact. I'm just going on sources that I've read, and we're talking about it here. Apparently, at the time of the assassination, Jamal was putting together a piece for the Washington Post. So that, again, giving information to the United States media, again, that's probably another reason that it ended the way it did. So very worrying. Okay, he's involved. There seems to be this shadow over him that he's involved in assassinations. You don't want that. Okay, point number 2. He has a history of executions, arrests, torture, and human rights violations. So to delve into that a bit more, Saudi Arabia and the UAE formed a coalition to help fight rebel forces in Yemen. Okay. However, it wasn't like they went in and were tactical about it and just getting rid of the rebel forces. They bombed Yemen without any discrimination. Schools, hotels, civilians, they did not care. They just bombed it without any thought of the repercussions from those actions. Again, that's a very worrying attitude to have. And then the Lebanon Prime Minister also visited Saudi Arabia. It was supposed to be just a meeting between leaders. So it went downhill very drastically. Upon arrival, the Lebanon Prime Minister had phones confiscated, personal items confiscated. He was then forced to resign. He was imprisoned apparently in a hotel in Saudi Arabia, not allowed to leave. He was forced to resign as Prime Minister of Lebanon, and he did all of that live on a Saudi TV channel. So again, it's not great behaviour to be having from a potential investor in the English game.
And so MBS was the one that reportedly made this go ahead, made him resign live on Saudi TV.
Yeah, him and his regime. Yeah, it's not good. Imprisoning women activists. So as you know, there's women don't have many rights in the country of Saudi Arabia. I think just a while ago they were given the right to drive.
Yes,
I think yes they were.
That's correct.
However, women activists that have been protesting for more rights, a load of them were thrown into prison for their, just protesting. And that caused issues all over the globe. I do believe Prime Minister Justin Trudeau of Canada at that point ridiculed the actions and asked for their immediate release. And that caused a knock-on effect of trade between the countries and diplomacy, just because MBS didn't like what they were saying. Again, it was another challenge to his authority, and he did what he did, and that was throw him in prison. He's also arrested political leaders and ultra-rich people that live in Saudi Arabia, as he sees them as a threat to his regime as well. So anyone that can oppose him is thrown in prison, essentially arrested and threatened.
Right. So, I mean, in terms of a takeover of Newcastle United, I mean, that's kind of worrying, because if any of the potential managers speak out against anything that he does, or it's not looking good, is it? It's just one of those things where all of this list that you've put together, all these different things. When you hear them all, and anyone can go and look this stuff up. It's not like it's it's secret. It starts to make you worry about the kind of people that are going to be involved in the club and the league as well. It's not just the club that gets affected; it's the whole league that gets affected. It puts a splurge against the league itself, which is not good, because obviously the league is the best league in the world. Don't think many people would argue with that. And we've got to be careful about who we're allowing to have control within the league.
Yeah, well, the Premier League has this vetting process anyway to be able to stop any potential dodgy ownership. And there was just a report that came out yesterday, and I literally could not believe it when I read it, saying that the Newcastle deal might fall through. And I was like, oh, great. They've seen the human rights issues things. It wasn't about that at all. The deal might fall through. Get this. The deal might fall through because Saudi Arabia has dodgy TV. Round of applause to the Premier League. Apparently, in Saudi Arabia, there's this sports channel called Be Out Q Pirate TV.
It's actually called Pirate TV.
It's called Be Out Q. Oh no, it's a pirate TV station.
Right. Can you imagine that'd be the most bait TV station in the world?
No,
Pirate Bay TV.
It's just called Be Out Q TV, right, but it's a pirate service.
Cool.
But what they do is they rip the stream from beIN Sports, which I think is owned by a UAE company.
Right.
They rip the stream from them and put it on the internet for free.
Brilliant.
And the Premier League have objected to this. This is one of the reasons that the deal might fall through unless the MBS steps in and stops this kind of illegal broadcasting of Premier League football. And I was just thinking to myself, of all the things to pick on,
Can you imagine MBS on the end of the phone, like receiving that call? Well, we're not gonna be able to allow your takeover. Why? Because you're streaming football. Can you imagine? He's just sitting there all like, oh my God, is that it?
It's laughable, that.
Yeah.
I just don't get it. Yes, I know that that's a direct conflict with the Premier League itself, but that should not be the number one thing on their list of why this guy should not be allowed to invest in a Premier League club, for crying out loud.
I mean, if me and you can find this information out, the Premier League will definitely be able to find this out. And it's exactly like we said before, it's not secret. It's information that anyone can find on the internet if you look for it. So, I mean, I'd really like to know Newcastle fans' honest opinions about this. Are they just happy that they're going to potentially be one of the richest clubs in the world, or is there a moral issue here? Do you feel that it shouldn't go ahead because of this moral issue, or?
I'll pose the question differently, Sam. Yeah. Okay, Newcastle fans, forget the money. Do you want these people, as people, involved in your club? Forget that they have a stupid amount of money. Forget that point. Do you want these people involved in your club? Yes or no? Let us know.
We're really interested to find out. As always, just get in contact with us. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. Just look for To The Point Podcast. We'll put some links below as well. Please do check us out, because we want to be at a point with this podcast where we're interacting with you, the listeners, and that's why we do this, because we like talking about football, but we also like talking to other people about football. And that's where we really want to go with this as well. So, yeah, please do get in contact with us. Matt, is there anything else that you sort of want to add on to sort of the end of this discussion? Any other business?
Not really. Any other business, yeah. So, away from the article we just did, okay, in this trying time, there are a lot of small clubs that are struggling at the moment. And even some bigger clubs that are struggling. I heard that Burnley, if this COVID-19 goes on for much longer, Burnley said that they could be bankrupt by August. So what I'm going to say is there's a lot of clubs out there, both lower league, grassroots, that are struggling through this at the moment. And they're trying to come up with ways to fundraise in this time. And I would say, if you love football and if you can afford to do so, please support them in whatever they're doing. Be it you buy a raffle ticket for what they're doing, or they run a bingo competition out of their clubhouse, whatever. Please, 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 you get involved with whatever they're doing, because there could be a lot of football teams about to disappear from existence at the lower levels and grassroots because of what's going on at the moment. So that's all. That's just what I want to say there.
Absolutely. I totally concur with that. Just get involved, give money where you can, and also stay indoors, stay at home. It's just not worth it. I mean, like, the thing is you can just watch us and listen to us. Why do you need to go outdoors? I'm also going to say right here, right now, that I'm hoping that with this podcast as well, we can start doing some things on Facebook Live, live on Twitter, maybe live on Instagram as well. So if you want to join in the conversation, we'll go live and you can join in, and I think that would be quite good for us to do as well. We might even do our own like little fundraiser as well. So we've got some ideas, we've got some plans. We're just trying to figure out what it is that we're doing at the moment and how we're going to sort of bring this back in a really strong way. But it's been good to do this today again. Good old times. And yeah, we'll be back very, very soon.
Okay. It's been good talking to everyone. It's been good to be back. I love my podcast.
Take care, guys. See you soon. Bye for now.